I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. My name's Jake, and I was supposed to marry my fiancée, Lisa, last weekend. We'd been together for almost 4 years, and honestly, I thought we had a good thing going. Sure, every relationship has its ups and downs, but I never suspected it would end like this, like some twisted, heartbreaking betrayal that I still can't wrap my head around. Looking back, maybe there were signs. Lisa had been a little more distant in the last couple of months, but I figured she was just stressed with work or pre-wedding jitters. She always had a quick temper, and her bitchy attitude lately was just her being her usual self, sarcastic and dismissive, snapping at little things. Still, I never thought it meant she was unfaithful. I mean, she's the kind of girl who'd lie about anything, so I guess I just ignored the warning signs. The thing is, Lisa can be charming and sweet when she wants to be, but she's also manipulative and really good at hiding her true colors. She's the queen of deflecting, lying, and making herself look like the victim. She always had a way of twisting things to her advantage, and I guess I was too naive to see how she played that game. I trusted her blindly, which now feels like a huge mistake. The last few days before the wedding should have been the happiest, but instead, they turned into the worst of my life. Everything changed the night of her bachelorette party. I wasn't there, that's another story, but I'll just say I had a gut feeling she was up to something. She kept telling me she was with her friends having a good time, but I could tell she was hiding something. She'd ignore my calls, send cryptic texts, and I caught her lying about where she was a few times before. Then it happened. I was at home trying to kill time when I accidentally saw her phone on the kitchen counter. It was unlocked, stupid mistake, I know, but I couldn't help myself. I just wanted to see what she was hiding. That's when I saw the messages. They weren't explicit at first, just innocent-seeming texts between her and a coworker named Michael. At least, that's what they looked like at first. But then I started reading deeper, and my stomach sank. The tone changed. Their texts became flirtatious, suggestive, and I saw a message where she called him the best sex she ever had. I couldn't believe it. It hit me like a punch in the gut. All this time I thought she loved me, and here she was, screwing around with some guy at work just days before our wedding. I felt a mixture of rage, heartbreak, and disbelief. How could she lie so blatantly? How could she pretend everything was perfect while sneaking off to have sex with another man? I felt so stupid for trusting her, for thinking we had a future. Suddenly, the foundation of everything I believed about her crumbled. I wasn't just hurt, I was furious. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I needed to think. This wasn't just some fling, this was planned, ongoing. She knew she was going to marry me, and she was doing this behind my back. I couldn't just pretend I didn't see it. That night I sat there staring at her messages, feeling like I'd been punched in the stomach over and over again. It was humiliating, heartbreaking, and infuriating all at once. The girl I was about to marry had been lying to me for months, maybe longer. How much of my life was just a lie? What did I do wrong? Was I enough? I kept thinking about all the little things I brushed off, her distant attitude, her sudden mood swings, her late nights. It all makes sense now, but back then I didn't want to see it. I wanted to believe in us, in her love for me. But now I know better. I can feel the betrayal burning in my chest. I don't know what I'll do next, but I know one thing. My world has shattered, and I'm left trying to pick up the pieces of a life I thought was real. After I saw those messages, everything changed in an instant. My mind was racing, trying to process how she could do this, how she could lie to my face for so long. I sat there frozen, holding her phone, feeling like I was in some bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I kept telling myself it wasn't true, that maybe I was overreacting, but deep down, I knew I had just stumbled onto something that would ruin me. I waited until the next morning, then confronted her. I knew I had to do it face to face, even if part of me just wanted to run away from all this chaos. I found her in the living room trying to act normal, like she hadn't just been caught cheating on me. Her eyes flickered with that familiar bitchy glare, like she was annoyed I disturbed her perfect day. I couldn't hold back anymore. I threw her phone on the table and said, "Who is Michael? What's going on?" My voice was trembling, but I forced myself to sound firm. She looked at me with that sick smirk and rolled her eyes. "Oh, really? You're going to accuse me of cheating just because I missed a few calls from friends." She snapped. "You're overthinking again, Jake. You always do this when you're nervous. Maybe you're just paranoid." That's what she said, like she hadn't just been caught in a lie, like I was the crazy one. I knew better. I knew she was lying, trying to brush it off like it was nothing. I pushed the phone toward her and said, "Don't lie to me, Lisa. I saw your messages, the one where you called him the best sex you ever had. How do you explain that?" Her face went pale for a second, then she threw her head back and laughed, that bitchy, dismissive laugh that makes my blood boil even now. "Oh, come on, Jake, that was just some stupid joke. You're taking things out of context. You always get jealous over nothing." I felt my stomach tighten. How could she be so calm, so dismissive? It was like she didn't care, that she just shredded my trust, like she was enjoying playing with me. I was furious, raging actually, and I wanted to punch something, but instead I just stared at her and said, "Stop lying. I know you've been messing around with him. I saw the texts. I saw how you talk about sex, about how much you want him." She looked at me with that smug look, her eyes flashing with contempt. "You think I'm some innocent girl? Please. I've always been honest with you. You're just insecure. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." Those words cut deep. She was blaming me, accusing me of being boring, of not satisfying her. It made me realize how much she hated me, how much she'd been cheating and sneering behind my back all this time. At that moment, a storm of emotions took over. I felt humiliated, angry, heartbroken, and betrayed all at once. I wanted to scream at her, scream that I hated her, that I never wanted to see her again, but I couldn't speak. My voice caught in my throat. I just stared at her, feeling like I was going to explode. How could she lie so easily? How could she tear my world apart with just a few messages? After that confrontation, she kept up her act, trying to deny everything, throwing in some tears and pretending to be the victim. "You're being paranoid," she said. "You're overreacting because you're scared of losing me." But I knew better. I saw her for what she was, a liar, a cheat, someone who played with my feelings and then tossed me aside like I was nothing. The emotional fallout hit me hard. I felt like I was suffocating, like I'd been punched in the gut again and again. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All I could do was replay those messages, replay her words, and wonder how I was so blind. How I could have loved someone so much, only to find out she was just using me for sex, for fun, while I was planning a wedding and imagining a future with her. That's when I realized I had two choices: either forgive her and pretend it never happened, or face the reality and do something about it. But deep down, I knew I couldn't stay with her. Not after this. Not after she lied to my face and tore my trust apart so easily. The betrayal ran too deep. I had to decide what to do next, and honestly, I was already leaning toward walking away, no matter how much it hurt. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and anger. I couldn't believe I'd wasted so much time trusting her, believing in a future that now felt like a complete lie. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her smug face, that dismissive smirk, and those stupid texts she thought I wouldn't find. It was like a punch to the gut every single time. I kept asking myself how I didn't see the signs earlier, how I missed the way she'd dodge questions or suddenly get cold and bitchy for no reason. The worst part was knowing that all those moments she'd push me away, act like I was paranoid or insecure, she was actually out there screwing another dude. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time, it was different. I couldn't just ask her questions and expect her to tell the truth. I needed to see her reaction, see if she was going to keep lying or if she'd finally crack. So I arranged to meet her at her apartment. I didn't tell her I was coming. I just showed up unannounced, standing outside her door with my heart pounding in my chest. Every step I took felt like walking into a trap, but I had to know the truth. When she opened the door, her eyes widened in surprise. She tried to put on that fake innocent face, the one she's perfected over the years, and said, "Jake, what are you doing here?" Her voice was a little too sweet, a little too forced. I didn't buy it. I walked straight in and looked around her apartment. It was clean, but I saw her phone sitting on the counter just within reach. My hand trembled as I grabbed it and started scrolling through her messages again. There were more texts, more proof, some even more explicit than before. She had been lying to my face, hiding the extent of her affair. And then she snapped. Her bitchy side kicked in full force. "What are you doing? Are you spying on me now? You're insane, Jake," she shouted, trying to snatch the phone away. But I held tight and looked her in the eyes. "I want to know everything," I said, voice cold. "How long has this been going on? Did you ever really love me? Or was I just some fool to you?" Her face twisted into a forced smile, but I saw the flicker of guilt. She tried to deny everything, claiming she was just stressed, that it was some stupid mistake, that she didn't mean to hurt me. But I knew better. I knew she was lying again, trying to manipulate her way out of it. At that moment, I felt my anger boil over. I told her she could lie all she wanted, but I wasn't going to be played anymore. I told her that I deserved better than to be some backup plan for her cheating ass. I told her I was done, finished with her lies, her manipulations, her bullshit. I said I was leaving, and she could either come clean or keep hiding behind her fake tears and bitchy attitude. She threw a tantrum, yelled at me, called me crazy, told me I was overreacting, but I didn't care. I'd already made up my mind. That night I packed my things and left her apartment. I didn't even say goodbye. What was the point? I felt broken and furious all at once. For the first time in my life, I seriously questioned everything I knew about love, trust, and commitment. How could someone I loved so much do this to me? It was like my entire world had been a lie, and I was the fool who believed in fairy tales. In the days that followed, I felt numb most of the time. The initial shock gradually turned into a strange kind of clarity. I realized that I'd been blindsided, but I also understood I deserved better. Lisa was a selfish, manipulative woman who only cared about herself. She lied, cheated, and tried to gaslight me into thinking I was the crazy one. But I wasn't going to let her win. I knew I had to move on, to rebuild my life from the ground up, and to learn from this nightmare. Looking back, I see how naive I was. I let someone like her manipulate me for so long, but I can't blame myself entirely. I thought I was doing everything right, loving her, trusting her. But now I see that some people are just toxic, and the only way to protect yourself is to walk away. Sometimes the hardest thing to do is the right thing, and even if it hurts like hell, I know I'll be better off without her. The shock wore off eventually, but the fallout from everything hit me harder than I expected. I kept replaying that night, her face, her words, how she dismissed me, how she lied so effortlessly. I felt like a fool for trusting her, for believing she was different from all the others. But what cut the deepest was realizing how much I'd sacrificed for her, only to be thrown aside like garbage once she got bored or found someone more exciting. That realization haunted me each day, making me question all my choices, all the time I'd spent thinking she was the one. I started to get angry, not just at her but at myself for letting it happen. How did I let her get away with all those lies? Why did I ignore the signs? I had to confront those feelings or they'd eat me alive. So I decided I needed to do something drastic, something to reclaim my dignity and show her that I wasn't going to be some pushover. I wanted her to see that she had lost someone who truly loved her, but also someone who wouldn't be played anymore. I knew her work schedule, her routines, her habits, so I devised a plan. I wasn't going to just sit around and let her walk all over me. No, I had to do something that would shake her up, make her regret what she'd done. I started by gathering all the evidence I could find, screenshots of texts, copies of emails, even her social media messages. I wanted everything in one place, ready to expose her if I needed to. The idea was simple. If she thought she was going to get away with this, she was dead wrong. I wasn't going to be a silent victim anymore. I wanted her to know I'd fight back, even if that meant destroying her reputation or exposing her to her coworkers. That's when I realized how much I despised her for what she'd done, how much I hated that she'd humiliated me just days before our wedding. Next, I reached out to Michael. I didn't want to do anything reckless. No threats, no violence, just some questions. I wanted to hear his side, to understand what he thought he was doing. Turns out Michael was just as much of an asshole. He admitted they'd been seeing each other for a few months, that she'd been sneaking around behind my back. He said she was amazing in bed, and that she knew exactly how to make him feel alive. Reading that made me feel sick. How could she turn her back on everything we shared for some stupid affair? With all this information, I decided I couldn't let her get away with Not without consequences. I started planning how to let her know I knew everything. I wanted her to see that her lies were no longer safe. I didn't want to hurt her physically. I just wanted to humiliate her, to make her understand she had lost someone she'd taken for granted. I also knew I had to be careful. I didn't want to come across as reckless or obsessive, but I was angry enough to do some serious damage if it meant making her feel guilty. I also thought about how I'd tell my friends and family. I was ashamed, embarrassed, humiliated, but I also knew I couldn't hide from the truth anymore. If I was going to move on, I needed to be honest. I owed it to myself to get this all out in the open, to face the reality that the girl I loved had betrayed me so completely. It was time to stop pretending everything was okay, time to face the music, and accept that our relationship was over, probably beyond repair. Looking back now, I realize that this betrayal has changed me forever. I used to be someone who believed in love, in honesty, in loyalty. Now I see how fragile those things really are. Trust can be shattered in an instant, and once it's gone, it's almost impossible to get back. But I also learned that I'm stronger than I thought, strong enough to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve me. I still feel the sting of her lies, but I won't let them define me. I'll rebuild, move forward, and find someone who actually values me for who I am. That's the lesson I'm trying to hold on to now. The days after I started putting my plan into motion felt like walking through a fog. Every moment was filled with a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I finally had clarity, and dread because I knew what I was about to do could blow everything to hell. Still, I couldn't keep carrying this weight of lies and betrayal anymore. I had to face her, tell her I knew everything, and see her reaction. That was the only way I could start healing, or at least understanding what the hell I was supposed to do next. I scheduled a meeting at her apartment, just a simple, no-nonsense confrontation. I didn't want to drag it out or give her time to spin her stories. I wanted her to see I wasn't fooling around anymore. When she opened the door, her face registered surprise just for a second. Her eyes flickered with that bitchy glare like she already knew what was coming. I stepped inside, clutching a hard copy of the evidence I'd gathered. I wanted her to see I was serious. I laid everything out on the table, screenshots of the texts, copies of emails, even her social media messages. I told her I knew about her affair with Michael, how she'd been lying behind my back for months, possibly longer. Her reaction was exactly what I expected: denial, anger, and that overly dramatic poor me act. She started crying, claiming she didn't mean to hurt me, that it was just a stupid mistake, that she still loved me, but I wasn't buying her crocodile tears anymore. Stop lying, I told her firmly. I saw the texts. I know you've been screwing around with him. Don't try to tell me it's just sex or that it doesn't mean anything. I saw how much you enjoyed it, how you called him the best sex you ever had. I could feel my voice getting harsher, but I didn't care. I wanted her to understand she'd crossed a line I'd never thought she would. She looked at me with that bitchy smirk again, trying to dismiss everything. "You're overreacting, Jake. This doesn't change how I feel about you," she said, her voice dripping with false innocence. "You're just jealous, insecure, and you're making a huge deal out of nothing." Her words stung, but I'd heard enough. I told her that if she really loved me, she wouldn't have done what she did, that her actions proved she didn't care about us or our future. I told her I was done, done with her lies, done with her manipulation, done with pretending everything was okay. I explained I wasn't going to be her backup plan anymore, that I deserved someone who actually valued me, who didn't cheat and lie. Her reaction was denial again, her tears turning into anger. "You're crazy," she spat. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be with someone who's insecure and paranoid." That was her way of flipping the script, making it all about me, trying to make me doubt myself. But I knew better. I knew what she was. She was a liar, a manipulator, a cheat. She'd been screwing around behind my back and then trying to gaslight me into thinking I was the problem. I felt a strange mixture of relief and rage because the truth was finally out in the open. I'd faced her, confronted her, and I'd seen her true colors. I realized that I'd wasted so much time trying to believe she was the one, when all along, she'd just been playing me. As I turned to leave, she started crying harder, begging me to stay, to forgive her, to work things out. But I couldn't do it. I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "No, Lisa, I won't be part of your game anymore. I see you for what you really are." I left her apartment that night knowing I'd taken control of my life again, even if it was going to hurt like hell for a while. That moment marked the beginning of the end of us. I felt freedom, but also heartbreak. Heartbreak for what I'd lost, heartbreak for the betrayal I'd just uncovered. But I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I realized I'd been a fool for trusting someone so manipulative and selfish. I learned that sometimes the hardest truth is the only one that can set you free. And now, all I could do was pick myself up, dust off, and figure out how to move on from the wreckage she left behind. In the weeks that followed, I felt like I was walking through a storm, trying to find my way back to some sense of normalcy. Every day was a struggle, but at the same time, I started to see things more clearly. I realized how much I'd let myself be taken for granted, how much I'd ignored the warning signs, and how much I'd sacrificed just to keep what I thought was a perfect relationship. Now, it all seemed so hollow, so superficial. The girl I loved turned out to be someone I didn't even recognize anymore. I started focusing on myself. I got rid of her stuff, blocked her on social media, and cut off all contact. It wasn't easy. There were moments when I wanted to call her, to ask why she did this, to beg her to take me back, but I knew better. I knew I deserved someone who wouldn't lie and cheat behind my back. I needed to rebuild my confidence piece by piece and learn how to trust again if I ever could. The funny thing is, the more I healed, the more I realized how much I'd grown. I'd been so blind for so long, but now I see clearly. I see how toxic she was, how selfish and manipulative, and I see how much better my life is without her in it. I've started dating again cautiously, but I'm more aware of what I want and what I refuse to accept. No more secrets, no more lies, no more betrayal. I learned the hard way that love isn't supposed to hurt this much. Looking back, I can honestly say I don't regret exposing her, even if it caused a lot of pain. Because if I hadn't, I'd still be stuck in that nightmare, pretending everything was okay. Now I know that sometimes the truth has to come out, no matter how ugly it is. It's better to face it head on than to live in a lie. And I learned that no matter how much you love someone, you have to protect yourself. You have to stand up for your own happiness and self-respect. For anyone out there going through something similar, trust me, I get it. It's one of the worst feelings in the world to find out the person you loved was lying, cheating, and betraying you. But don't let her or him define your future. Take control. Get your evidence, confront them, and don't be afraid to walk away. Sometimes, the only way to save yourself is to turn the page and start fresh. Because in the end, you deserve honesty, loyalty, and someone who truly cares. And no one should settle for anything less.